The San Diego Padres make an interesting trade on deadline day. My name is Jeff Carr. I am the channel manager for Locked On MLB. Joining me is Javier Reyes, host of Locked On Padres. And the San Diego Padres have made a move, a more of a buyer move. I think there were some folks that were wondering what their status was heading into the trade deadline, and they have acquired left-handed pitcher Rich Hill and first base / DH Choi from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Heading to the Pirates will be number 16 ranked, according to MLB Pipeline, ranked prospect Jackson Wolf, Estuar Suero from the outfield, and Alfonso Rivas. So, Javi, first thoughts on this deal, as I think some folks were wondering where the Padres would be. Does this mean that they're buyers?
Look, it's funny because we're so used to the Padres being the team that makes the crazy move, on deadline day, on free agency day, whatever it is, for the past bunch of years, at least since I've been hosting this podcast. So you see a move like this, and it's definitely, it reminds me a little bit of in 2021 when they made the trade for, it was Daniel Hudson and I believe Jake Marisnick, and they did that. And it ended up being a disappointing deadline for them. The infamous Max Scherzer, red herring and whatnot, if whatever you're supposed to call that nightmare that I still have scars from. I think that this is a move that seems like that they're buying low on two players that can help with depth. That has been the only problem with the Padres for the most part this year. Not to the point where it justifies their record, and particularly their record in extra innings. I know everyone likes to get on them for the lack of depth, and you can't just have superstars, but they've also just not played well. And I think that leads into the second point, which is just, I'm a fan of it. I don't think that they should be buying all that much. Not to step on what your next question might be, but I just think you help bolster your DH spot, potentially have Ji-Man Choi hit against righties more. And Rich Hill, if you need him for a spot start, maybe they will even use him as a piggyback sort of starting option. It's just depth for players that aren't really regarded all that highly by the Padres. Jackson Wolf made a start for them rather recently and was okay. Didn't give up that many runs, but also walked a lot of people and struggled a little bit with location and only generated one whiff the entire start. So not necessarily a superstar pitcher that they gave up, which I think is good for them to help hopefully rekindle the farm.
Yeah, so you talked about the fit with this. I know that the Padres are currently, as we record this, they're 5 games out of the wild card, and they're a little bit further back there in the NL West. Is this a move that might signal some bigger things, or do you think that AJ Preller might kind of do a buy-sell type deal here at the deadline?
Yeah, so I think that that's the big question, right? We are recording right after this trade happens, so for all we know, some news can change. But I think that this is a good sign for what I wanted, which is that they're going to be sellers. They're light buyers in the sense that they're like, all right, players, Manny Machado mouthing off and saying, we're not desperate, we're still going to do fine. I'll give you these type of players, right? Decent depth guys, because they haven't shown the front office and any reason for them to buy on this season. They go and sweep the Rangers, and then they lose in extra innings to the Colorado Rockies. After Xander Bogaerts grounds into 2 double plays, after some errors by Soto in the outfield and base running. So it's like, you haven't shown us players that you actually are going to be competitive. So instead, they're being tepid buyers and potentially sellers. Maybe they get rid of Blake Snell. Maybe they get rid of Josh Hader, although early indications don't suggest that'll happen. So they're like, all right, if you guys make a miracle run, cool, but we're not mortgaging our future again because you guys haven't shown us any reason to do that, right? Last year, you actually were fighting and you were winning in extra innings. You had Jorge Alfaro become a cult hero with the amount of walk-offs that he had, right? This year, 0-10 in extra innings. They are just so inconsistent that I think it is smart and pertinent for them to not buy all that much into this season.
If you're AJ Preller, what's your next move?
Next move, bullpen guy. Just get the bullpen. The Padres bullpen was, dare I say, a little bit fraudulent to start the year. Yes, they were 3rd in ERA. They didn't give up a lot of runs. But if you look at stuff like win probability added, if you look at FIP, if you look at high leverage scenarios according to FanGraphs, they were 15th, 16th, even when they were good. So that shows you that they are really bad at holding leads. But when you're up by 4, or I'm sorry, when you're down by 4, they'll keep it at down by 4. You know what I mean? For the rest of the game. So it's not nothing, but that tells me add a nice little bullpen arm. Probably won't cost you too much. Again, you still keep your hopes alive for this season if you want to, but don't make it that you're giving up your golden egg prospects like Jackson Merrill and Ethan Salas, the 17-year-old kid who's already lighting it up in Double A or Single A. I'm sorry. So I think that's what they do next. Could they potentially get another bat and have like another DH platoon similar to what they had wanted with Matt Carpenter and Nelson Cruz before those two, one of them getting released and the other one just not being fit for a baseball field at the moment? Then maybe that's what they do. But otherwise, I think it's a quiet deadline for them, and it stinks. It's not fun. It's not fun as a content creator for me not to be like, oh my god, Luis Roberts a Padre. But I think it's necessary. I really do.
That makes sense, and there's far more analysis where that comes from Javi over at Locked On Padres. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Padres as the Pods move forward to see if they can sneak into one of those wild card spots. Javi, thanks.
Awesome. Always a pleasure.